All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Capitalize on Retirement. Really excited for this one because this is one that I think every retiree and pre-retiree should probably listen to, right? This is an important one. And we're going to talk about annuities today, which sometimes in meetings, can be a bad word. I mean,
Yeah.
we really like annuities, but there are some poor annuities. There's some misconceptions. So anybody who's ever searched annuities online, you'll notice one thing. About half the internet tells you they're the greatest product ever created, and the other half of the internet, they think they're the worst investment on earth.
Yeah.
So today we're kind of going to do a little debunking or myth busting of that, however you want to call it. But, we're not necessarily product guys, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah. I mean, we don't necessarily believe in good products or bad products. I mean, it's all about planning. I mean, if somebody in their 30s, most likely they should never buy an annuity, right?
No.
But somebody who's getting ready to retire, there are some benefits. And so today we're going to talk about what are the pros, what are the cons, who should own one, and just what are the benefits, but what are also the downsides? Because I think the problem in our industry is a lot of advisors like to talk about all the benefits of products. They don't like to talk about the downside. So we're going to be fully transparent today.
No, I can't wait for this one. I mean, I think our main thing is, an annuity it's a tool in the toolbox, right? And it should be there to solve a problem, right? That's kind of all it is. A product is there to solve a problem.
Yeah.
It's not that you should or shouldn't own it, but that we have a problem that it can help solve.
Right. Exactly. So, let's talk about the retirement pyramid. We kind of talk about this a lot when we're working with the families that we work with, but we try to talk about the retirement pyramid, and we kind of correlate that to building a house.
Mm-hmm.
So when you build a house, and we've said this in previous podcasts, you don't start with the roof or the walls. You start with the foundation. And so typically the foundation of your retirement is your income plan.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with, how do I maximize my Social Security? Do I have a pension? Well, do I have a lump sum option in my pension? What do I do with all that stuff? And then beyond that, if I need additional income, that's part of that foundation, because income in retirement is the foundation of having a successful retirement. So partially, annuities can fall into that income picture. Some annuities are guaranteed income streams, right? A lot of the annuities that we use are not necessarily guaranteed income streams, but there are a lot of benefits to using those types of products, but there are some downsides as well.
Yeah, and I mean, your house wouldn't do too well if you just kind of started with the roof. That's why you don't just buy products. That's why you start with the plan. But the one thing, and we know this, and there's been studies on this, the more guaranteed income you have, the happier you are in retirement.
Yeah.
And from our side, on the financial side, the less stressed you are.
Studies have been done that people who own annuities in retirement have less stress. They live better retirements because they're not as worried about the markets going down and am I going to be okay in retirement? So we don't necessarily think that you should have all your money in annuities, and we certainly don't think that. And we don't think you should have all your money in the market either. So it's kind of having that fine balance, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
I agree. So let's kind of hit what is an annuity, and annuities are 100-page contracts, huge brochures. I mean, the definition is actually, in my opinion, pretty simple. It's a contract with the insurance company, right? We give them, or you give them, your money.
Yeah.
They're going to make us a promise by taking our money. Yeah. And that promise can be a couple things. It could be, hey, I promise you your principal won't decline. I promise to pay you income for life. I may promise you a minimum guaranteed interest rate. That's really all an annuity is. The insurance company is taking on a risk that you no longer want. So you're giving them your money. They're bearing the risk associated with that.
Yeah, so you just said it. I mean, the insurance company's taking away your risk. So where else do the insurance companies take away our risk? Well, we have auto insurance. We have homeowners insurance. We're essentially transferring our risk. We're paying a monthly premium, and we're transferring our risk to the insurance company. Well, everybody has homeowners insurance. Everybody has auto insurance. They're transferring their risk. In retirement, that's all you're doing.
Yep.
You're saying, I want to make sure that I protect my money, or maybe I want to make sure that I have guaranteed income. So you're transferring your risk to the insurance company. And why do insurance companies offer them? Well, insurance companies aren't charities, right?
No.
They're businesses. And they know over a long period of time that they're going to make money. I mean, they're not a charity.
Mm-mm.
So with the insurance company, sometimes they get the contracts wrong. Sometimes their underwriting's bad. They get it wrong. They give you more benefits than you should have received. Other times, maybe they have the upper hand and they're making 0.5% or 1% on your money.
Yep.
But the math works in their favor over time. But you're not buying an annuity for the best performance in the world. I'm not buying this to make 20% a year with my investments. I'm just transferring my risk to the insurance company.
That's all it is. And the math works in the insurance company's favor, whether it's an annuity insuring your retirement or, State Farm insuring your car, right?
Yeah.
It's law of large numbers. When you have millions and millions of people pulled together, they have that law of large numbers. It's the same reason why term insurance is so cheap. Right? They know that not everybody's going to live to 100. Not everyone's going to take maximum withdrawals. They also invest billions of dollars under professional management. So, they know they're going to be okay because of those variables, but they are absolutely not doing this for free.
Yeah.
I mean, they're some of the largest institutions in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and when I look at annuities, I think there's a lot of good and a lot of bad. And I know we'll get into the actual details of it, but there are so many, if you buy the right ones, there's so much good that can come from it. And if you buy the wrong ones, there's so much bad that can come from it. And your experience could be totally different, kind of depending on which type you actually own.
And I think that's what we've seen, right? Because there's a lot of good annuities, there's a lot of bad, but even bad, are they really bad or did they just not fit their goal, right?
Exactly.
Because it has to be very goal and very plan specific, but I think we should distinguish between the 4 different annuity types. Yeah. So let's kind of hit that first because there are 4 very different types of annuities. They are all annuities, but very different. And we're going to start with a fixed annuity. So the fixed annuity, this is probably the easiest one. You receive a fixed interest for a period of time. That period could be 2 years, it could be 4 years, it could be 5 years, 7, 10 years. Very simple. It's the best for predictable growth and for very conservative investors. So I may give the insurance company $100,000 and they tell me they're going to guarantee me a 5% rate of return for the next 5 years. Thing on that, though, that I do want to say, because these are very predictable, but let's talk about it from the tax side versus CDs. So in an IRA, this wouldn't apply, but if I own a CD with non-qualified or taxable dollars, if I earn 5% of my CD, I have to pay taxes as ordinary income on that.
Yeah.
Whereas if I earn 5% of my annuity, I am able to defer that tax bill.
Yeah, that's a good point. Annuities are tax deferred. So you are deferring that tax bill, which means you could potentially grow your accounts by a little bit more over time.
Correct.
If you're not paying those taxes.
Which is nice. It's not that the tax bill is going away, but I know we've talked about that in past with clients who have a lot of money markets. We're doing Roth conversions, things like that. So that's just one of the indicators there, the differentiator.
Yeah. The next type of annuity is called a MYGA, a multi-year guaranteed annuity. Mm-hmm. And the fixed annuity and the MYGA are pretty much similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So
a MYGA is just a multi-year guaranteed annuity. You have a guaranteed fixed rate with it. So it might be a 3-year MYGA where you're guaranteed, 5% or 5.5% a year. So it's similar to, it's like a higher yield CD from an insurance company. So sometimes you can get even higher rates, and it's backed by the insurance company. So no matter which annuity company you go with, I always say you want to go with one that is very stable, has a lot of cash reserves. Like you got to go with the A+ rated companies.
Yep. Yeah, there's not a major difference between the fixed annuities and the MYGAs. They're very similar. I think MYGAs just tend to be on a little bit of a shorter term.
Right. Yep.
So not a huge difference there.
Yeah. So the next one, which is what we get questions about a lot, is a fixed indexed annuity. So this is probably one of the fastest growing in the annuity industry. And so how it works is essentially there's a floor and a cap usually. Usually it's tied to an index like the S&P 500 or various types of indexes. There's all kind of options. But if that S&P index goes up, there's typically also a cap. So the insurance company says you're going to play within a range of 0% and maybe up to as of today, 9.5%, 10%, typically on the upside. So that's really nice in retirement because we know if the market goes down, I'm not losing anything. I'm still getting my income. But if the market goes up, I could still make up to potentially 10% in that index as of today. So
the thing I think that we like about it as planners, because that's definitely the most commonly used one at our firm. The thing that we like about it is predictable. We know with certainty that account can't go backwards. And the ones that we use tend to not have fees on them. So we know the worst case scenario, no matter what the market does, our return will be 0%. We also know the best case scenario on that too. So we know that side is predictable. And the one thing that we can all, we all know that the market is not.
Yeah.
The market's been great, but there's no predictability to the stock market.
So if we have a couple different buckets of money, we have some money in our income bucket, which could be that annuity. We have some money in growth, which is the market. If the market pulls back, I let that recover. I don't want to take my income from there. I take it from the annuity, which is not losing value. But if the market is going up, and I make 20%, well, it's a different story. You could take it from either one.
You're in good, no matter what. If the market's going up, no matter where your money's at, we're in good shape.
It's easy.
It's easy. It becomes really easy, but the market doesn't always go up.
Right.
I think, so that's probably the fastest growing category here that we're going to talk about. That's the one that we use most often here. I think the one that people have the biggest negative opinion over is the last one, and the fourth one is going to be the variable annuity. And this is totally different because one, your money is invested in the market, right? Through what's called a sub account, which means you can make money, you can lose money.
Yeah.
Variable annuities do have some nice features to them, like guaranteed income riders. They have death benefit riders, but they're usually the most complex.
Yeah.
And they are absolutely the highest cost annuities.
Yeah, usually they're pretty expensive. Like we've seen some that are 4%, 5% in cost a year.
Yep.
I mean, that really eats into your upside. So, the reason we like some of the fixed index annuities or are partial to them is because there's typically no fee. It's built into the product. So I really like those. The variable annuities, when you read about annuities online, they're typically referencing variable annuities.
Yeah, more often than not, they're absolutely referencing variable annuities. And we've seen some that are really good, and as product design is changing, some of them are getting better, but they have what's called a mortality and expense charge, which the charges associated with variable annuities.
You got to look under the hood.
And most people don't. This is our world, so that's easy for us to do, but most people don't necessarily understand what's in there.
What drives me crazy sometimes is most advisors want to talk about all the positives and all the pros. And, this variable annuity comes with guaranteed income and it comes with death benefit features. Well, if you actually look at the fees and all the stuff that's actually built into there, most of the time it doesn't make sense. So you just really have to look at the products that you're owning and make sure that it's best for your situation. And that's why we lead with planning.
You have to lead with planning because those products do come with those features, but you're paying for those features.
You're paying for them. Exactly.
The insurance company isn't a charity. I think that's the biggest one.
Exactly. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes that people make. I think one of the biggest mistakes, and this kind of gets into the product features, you're buying one because someone scared you.
Yep.
Right? Someone said, hey, the market's going to crash.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're like, hey, I really need to protect my money. And you make a bad decision. Fear should never drive a financial decision.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we hear that all the time. Like, I'm worried the market's going to go down. Well, that doesn't mean you put all your money in an annuity.
Right.
That means you have a plan. You mentioned it earlier, safety, income, growth. You should have some money there, but most of your money should be tilted toward growth depending on your goals and needs. But I couldn't agree more. Fear should never drive a financial decision. Mistake number 2 would be buying one because we were promised huge returns or a huge guaranteed income stream, right? I've seen that before. Well, I was told I'll get, $50,000 a year off this.
Yeah.
That's true, but you're also paying for that.
Yep. Exactly. You're transferring your risk to the insurance company. And so if you're buying an income annuity, typically, you could get, instead of taking the normal 4% withdrawal.
Yeah.
The nice part about those income annuities is you need less money to produce the same result.
Yep.
So if I have $1 million in the market at 4% withdrawals, that's $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But some annuities that are income annuities, you could put $500,000 in them or $600,000 in them and get $40,000 of income.
Mm-hmm.
So you need less money to produce the same result, which is nice. And you let the rest of your money kind of grow in the market. But you are paying for that. So it limits your upside in those annuities. So you just got to really understand those products.
No, you got to be cautious of that. I mean, they're good when used appropriately.
Absolutely. The third mistake is ignoring liquidity. Now, I think this is a big one.
Oh, huge one. I know we talk about this every time, but this is a big one.
I think anytime you buy an annuity, you want to understand the liquidity. How much can I actually access? And usually for most companies, it's typically around 10% per year.
Mm-hmm.
So you put $500,000 in, you could usually access $50,000 a year without paying those penalties. Now, when it's out of surrender, when it's out of that surrender period, whether it's 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, that's when you could typically take all your money out, no penalties, no fees. But you really want to understand the liquidity.
And that brings us to the mistake number 4 is just not understanding the contract. You mentioned that. In that contract, well, what is my surrender?
Yeah.
What is my free withdrawal or liquidity, right? What is my cap? What is my floor? What are my different crediting options?
Right.
Like, if you're working with an advisor who's offering an annuity, one, I would want to know the rationale why, and then they should be able to clearly explain to you what's inside that contract, because that contract's this big.
Right.
I mean, it's 30-some pages. Or, no, it's a couple
probably
hundreds
of pages. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was 30 pages.
Yeah. No, so I mean, I think being able to understand it and explain it in a simple manner, you should be able to do that. I mean, and I just see all these things as red flags in our industry when people don't understand what they're buying.
Yep.
Right. And, just to kind of get into a little bit of the detail, but usually when it comes to that liquidity feature, people are afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should know the liquidity, but sometimes you're giving up a little bit of liquidity for better returns as well with that annuity.
Yep.
So, and we're also typically funding it with tax deferred money.
If you're doing it the right way and you have a plan in place, the liquidity shouldn't be an issue for you. If the liquidity is an issue for you, that's because you're just buying a product. You don't have a plan in place.
You're probably in the wrong product if liquidity is an issue.
Agreed.
I mean, if you have, let's just say $500,000 in that example in the annuity or in the market, if it's an IRA and you take all that money out, you're going to pay tax on all that money in 1 year.
Yep.
So you're probably not going to do that anyway because you're going to have this huge tax bomb. But if it's in the annuity, you can't really access 100% of it. You can, you're going to pay some penalties.
Yeah.
But if it's in an IRA, you're probably not taking all $500,000 out at one time anyway.
No. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to see that, right?
Yeah.
I think that brings us to kind of what we'll call our decision tree, or, this brings us to our process and how we evaluate client situation and help them prepare for this and understand if they need an annuity. But I think the main thing is, like, you always have to understand, what's my income goal?
Yeah.
Right? Do I need this? Does this help bridge my gap? Does this help eliminate sequence of return risk or volatility in the market? What's my appetite for risk?
Definitely.
Because if I have a low appetite for risk, the annuity is a great tool to help with that.
Yeah.
What's my liquidity needs? Like, there's a lot of things that have to go into this conversation where I think a lot of advisors and consumers are becoming much more aware of this, but you can't just go buy a product, because the product could be great, but if it doesn't fit your needs or your goals, that doesn't help you a whole lot. Or
you put too much money in it. Like, let's say you put too much money in it and now you lose your liquidity and you need new tires on the car. You need, your roof leaks and you need money. So that's why we have that approach where we have enough in each of those categories.
Yeah, and we want to get to know you so we could help make that decision.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this isn't, what's the purpose of this money for? Is it for growth? Is it for income? Is it for legacy? Is it tax deferral? Every dollar should have a job in your plan.
Absolutely. So I wanted to let's go through 10 questions that everyone should ask before buying an annuity. And we're going to be fully transparent here. So, let's go through some of these questions. So the first one is, how are advisors actually compensated? I know there's a few different ways that advisors can be compensated on annuities, and a lot of the families that we work with, they always ask that question. So maybe we just kind of talk about maybe one or two of the ways that an advisor is typically compensated on annuities.
Yeah, I mean, advisors are compensated on annuities via commission from the insurance company. So if a client puts $500,000 into the annuity, we would get paid a commission to basically manage that contract for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So the one thing I would want, if I'm a consumer, and we disclose this every first meeting we have, I would want to know what that commission is.
Right.
Right. Because if that product works for me, then that's okay. But if I want to know that, and I think, people should be disclosing that.
Yeah. And the nice part about some of the annuity companies now is they're actually offering a couple different options. And so let's just say you have money invested in the market and the fee is 1% from the advisor.
Yep.
Well, now the annuity companies are saying, hey, just to not create a conflict of interest, you can take the option where you get 1% a year.
Yep.
So there's no conflict of interest. We get paid the same regardless.
Yep. Yeah, we've been talking about that as the insurance companies kind of figure out that pricing model. I think that's the way our industry is going, which is a good thing.
That way there's no incentive, right?
Yeah.
The next one is, what is the surrender schedule? So basically when you buy an annuity, it comes with a 5-year, 7-year, 10-year surrender, whatever the term is of the annuity contract. And essentially what that means is, if you stay the whole term, so if it's a 10-year annuity, if you stay for 10 years, typically after that 10th year, there are no surrender charges. You could take your money, move it back to the market. You could stay in the product. You could find a new product, and you don't pay any of those surrender charges. But if you were to take more than that 10% penalty free in that 10-year period, that's when you would pay some of those penalties because it's not fully liquid.
Yeah, and I think with that surrender, I would want, I think people need to really understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't had any issues with that, because we are doing it under the planning, but I think people need to really understand that surrender and how that works. Yeah. And I do want to say, most annuities, the surrender doesn't apply to the beneficiary. So let's say this is written under, a husband, and God forbid something happens to the husband. When it passes to the spouse, the surrender would be waived. You could remain in the contract, but the surrender would be waived.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's talk about what fees apply. So typically with the newer types of products, the fixed index annuities, there's typically no fee. Now, if you're buying an income annuity, you add on that income feature to it. Typically, it does come with a fee of like 1% from the insurance company. But if you're buying it as like a bond replacement, you're buying it just as a fixed income asset, most of the time how we use it, there's no fee involved.
The more bells and whistles you have on here, when you add guaranteed income, when you had mortality and expense, you add all those things, the fees are going to add up, right?
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about how interest is credited to the annuity contract. How do I actually make money in it?
So basically, on most of these, you're going to have what's called a floor and a cap, and we kind of talked about that. So more often than not, the floor is going to be 0, and then you're going to kind of have a cap on a index. Like, for example, the S&P 500 right now, you're looking at like 9.5%. So your floor is 0. The index can go up to 9.5. So if I earn 7%, with a cap of 9.5, I'm going to get 7. If I earn if the S&P does 20% over that time period, I will get 9.5. If it does negative 20, I'll get 0.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. And if you're in one of the other annuities, like maybe a MYGA, you're just guaranteed that fixed rate over time. So
whatever that rate is.
Pretty simple, yeah. You already answered this one. What happens if I die early? Typically, the insurance company will they won't have any surrender charges. So they'll basically waive those surrender charges for us.
And I think the other thing on here too, because I get this question a lot, I'm sure you do. Well, because a lot of people think like these annuities, the money's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Whatever is left in that well, I wouldn't say all annuities, the ones that we write most often, whatever is left in that contract after you're gone passes to your beneficiaries.
Yeah. If you put $200,000 in it and it grows to $250,000 and you pass, your beneficiaries are going to get that 250,000. So it doesn't go away. It's not one of those deals. Now, if you annuitize your contract, that's when typically you turn it into a pension plan. So there's a lot of features here. We kind of already answered this one. How much liquidity do I have each year? That's depending on the type of contract. Typically, it's about 10% of what you have in there per year.
Yep.
Is this replacing another annuity, and if so, why? So those are questions that you should always ask yourself.
Always. I mean, if you're working with an advisor who's replacing an annuity, you want to know why. What's the pros versus the cons?
Yeah. What guarantees are backed by the insurer versus market performance? So when you put your money into an annuity company, it's all backed by that insurance company. So you have to make sure you're going with a strong company. You just don't want to put your money into an annuity company and then that annuity company is no longer around and you got some issues to deal with.
Yep.
So
what are my alternatives? Alternatives versus annuities could be, bond ladders. You could just put your money in the market and deal with sequence of return risk. I mean, there's tons of alternatives.
Yeah.
It's what best fits your situation. And that's question number 10. What problem does this annuity solve that another strategy doesn't?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's all dependent on your situation, right? I mean, annuities aren't the end all be all. They're also not the worst thing in the world. So got to fit into your plan. There's a need for it if it's done the right way.
I do think one other question that I've thought about when, how is your advisor compensated? I think it's important to note too that, not every advisor can offer market products. Not every advisor can offer annuities. So we are dual licensed, right? We have our life insurance and annuity licenses here, and we also have our securities license. So, but if I just have my life insurance license and somebody came to me, I probably don't understand the market that well because I haven't been trained on it.
You're going to say it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little more fearful of the market.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of present the annuity in a different way where, like with us, we can offer both to the families that we serve. So we're not necessarily saying that this is the best thing in the world, this is the worst thing in the world, but we're understanding both sides of the table to help position our clients better.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap it up, I think it starts with having a plan in place, right? You have to understand what your needs are. Some of our clients say, hey, my biggest concern is long-term care, but I also want some protection from the market. And so there's annuities that have long-term care riders.
Yep.
So I just think it's having the plan in place first. You know what the goals are, you know what the needs are, and then you can kind of structure what the actual products are for our plan. The worst types of advisors start with products.
Yep.
I hate that. You have to start with what are my goals, what are my needs, what actually solves my problems.
I couldn't agree more. So, guys, we enjoyed this episode. A lot of questions on annuities. Hopefully, you guys got a lot of value of it. If you wouldn't mind, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. But join us for our next episode, and we'll see you soon.